Welcome to the Cedar Creek Church Podcast, where we share stories of life change and inspire you to take a next step in your own faith journey, to discover your purpose and honor God with your life.
Hey everybody, I'm Sam Radford, your host for the Cedar Creek Church Podcast. On this episode, I have some friends from our Centerpoint student ministry, and I'm going to ask everybody just to introduce themselves really quick.
I'm Cameron, and I am a student at Centerpoint.
And what high school are you in?
Aiken High.
Aiken High, okay.
I'm Sam. I'm a small group leader with Centerpoint with the high school guys.
And I'm Will. I am the Centerpoint director.
I'm Sarah, and I am the girls' small group leader for 7th and 8th grade.
Okay, and Sarah Northington, right?
Yes.
And Will Northington.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have the power couple leading Centerpoint student ministry. I love it. Well, in some of our conversations throughout the week, I've heard about this game that y'all play in Centerpoint, and I had never heard of it until you shared it with me, but it's something called High-Low Buffalo.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so someone explain it to our listeners if they've never heard of it either.
So typically, any type of camp or just an event, we like to play high-low buffalo, which means tell us what was your high from the trip, what was your low, and then something that was random.
Okay.
That just really stood out for you.
That sounds fun. It sounds like it would get the conversation going.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Definitely.
so now that we all know what High-Low Buffalo is, I'd love to play that game with the focus being the Centerpoint outreach trip to Guatemala in 2024. Would y'all be up for that?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay, so I think I'm the only one in the room that has not been to Guatemala because all four of you went on this trip together last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so does anyone want to kind of give like a brief overview, like when did you go, how long did you stay, what was the overall purpose of the trip?
Sure. We went in July of 2024, and we were there for a full week. And our purpose of our trip was to visit feeding centers that the team in Guatemala has.
And this is Living Water Adopt a Child?
It is Living Water Adopt a Child. And their main area that they are in is in Guatemala City, and then they have different feeding centers.
They're mainly in Antigua.
That's right. Yeah, they are.
Okay, so Living Water Adopt a Child is like based in Antigua?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
And then they have some feeding centers up in Quiche, which is up in the mountains. And so we visited 3 feeding centers and really got to do pretty much everything that they do every week.
Mm-hmm. So as an outsider who's never been there.
Right. What is feeding center?
Yeah. Why is a feeding center important?
Right.
If there's a base in Antigua, but then you said other feeding centers in the mountains,
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing they're pretty spread out.
They are. And one of the really interesting facts that I thought was fascinating is that a lot of the people that come to the feeding centers, they actually walk there. And some of them walk miles and miles to get there. And the feeding centers in their area, there's 1 open a day, but they have 5 that would be open Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Okay.
And so the feeding centers feed hundreds and hundreds of children, and they get a warm meal, and sometimes they get dental care, and then they get to play games and have fun and just leave with full bellies.
Mm-hmm. And so outside of the feeding centers, was that the main focus, main thing y'all did, or what else did you do while y'all were there? And maybe we'll get into this with some of the high-low buffalo.
Right.
But maybe is there anything else, like we need to kind of paint the picture of what the week looked like?
Yeah, the other thing that every team has the opportunity to do is to actually go do home visits. So they'll go visit some of the kids from the program in their living environment. And that's where, if you're sponsoring a child, you actually get to go see them at where they live.
Wow.
So I want to say, because there were 16 of us that went, we typically split up into 2 teams each day, 8 and 8. And I think during the week we were there, we had like either 9 or 10 home visits that we were able to do.
Wow. And you said 16 of y'all went. Now, these are mostly students without their parents, you and small group leaders like Sam?
Right. There were either 9 or 10 students and then 5 or 6 leaders.
Okay.
I can't remember the exact numbers. But
Okay.
Yeah.
And y'all flew.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and to paint kind of a picture of like what our schedule was like when we were there, we flew in and drove straight to Antigua from Guatemala City. We were in Antigua for a couple of days, I think, and then we did some home visits there, and then we went up into the mountains to Quiche, which is where a lot of actually ancient Mayan peoples live.
Mm-hmm.
And they still speak like a Mayan language. A lot of them don't even speak Spanish. So we went up there to Quiche, and they have a sort of an outpost, a compound up there that they operate out of. And then we were up there, I think, probably 4 days.
Yeah, 4 or 5.
Around that. And then we came back to Antigua for the last few days of the trip. And we got one sightseeing day kind of at the end.
Mm-hmm. That must be where
so
all
that
the
was kinda
beautiful
cool.
pictures came from.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There's
All the
one of
group
Cam.
photos.
Yeah, there's one of Cam like sitting in front of the cross, I think, and then a group
Yeah.
picture too. That's awesome. And so y'all stayed in 2 different places? Okay.
So
Well, I think I kind of understand the week, but I'm sure I'm going to hear a lot more. So who wants to go first with their high for High-Low Buffalo? Don't all go at once.
I could
Rock,
go.
paper, scissors.
All right, Cam.
So probably my high of the trip was going to that feeding center up in the mountains. That was really fun because I seen what it's like to kind of be in that like situation where, well, not be in that situation, but like to see like all these kids like so happy and like around just playing together, and just to see how they are kind of like. I feel like that was really cool. And I met this like little young boy that he was like 6'5" maybe. He was just like the nicest person ever. Like the
Now, did y'all speak? Were y'all able to communicate?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
a little bit. I had
So you
trouble.
speak some Spanish?
I had trouble kind of saying hola, like all that, you know. So, but yeah, it was just really cool up there. What we did up there.
That's awesome.
So when we would go to the feeding center, we would help set everything up. So set tables, chairs up, and get the food is delivered to them. So there's one main kitchen that the food is made in, and then it's delivered to the feeding centers.
Oh.
And so at one of them, we got to help set up tables and chairs and get the food all ready and drinks ready, and then prepare for the kids to come in. So usually half of us would help like distribute food, and then half of us would go out and play.
Oh.
And so, you know, they would run around and play games and just have lots of fun. And I think at one of the feeding centers, did we serve like 600 kids? Was the second one?
Yeah.
What had a lot of kids come through?
Yeah, they have hundreds of kids each
Yeah.
day, but I think the highest one we did was probably between 600 and 700.
Yeah. And that week, so they serve the same meal the entire week. And that week they were serving fried chicken. And everybody talks about Guatemalan fried chicken, and it's the best. And
was so good.
truly is delicious. And so they would get a piece of fried chicken and then some rice. And their salsa is just like a sauce. It's not like chunky like ours. And they would get that. And then they would get tortillas and then something to drink. And they could come back and get seconds, but some of them actually brought Tupperware containers, and that they would take it home.
So you're not just feeding the children, but you're also feeding the family that might be at home, because they don't come with their parents, right? They come by themselves.
Yeah, some of the parents would stay outside. Some would stick around, but most of the time it was older kids bringing younger kids. I mean, and you would have a 2-year-old walking in with their stuff with the older, 8, 9, 10-year-old helping them serve their food. And it really is life-changing to know that that's their one hot meal.
Mm-hmm.
And they most of the time at their home, they would have beans, rice, corn. That was kind of like their main staples. And so this was a chance to have something a little bit different.
Right. What about another high?
I guess I'll go. Mine's a little different. I think for me personally, I didn't actually get to interact with the kids that much. When we were at the feeding centers, I ended up being on kind of cleanup duty. So I was mopping the floors and cleaning off the tables. So, which I didn't mind. It was, somebody's got to do it. But I think for me, the biggest thing was seeing like the students, the Centerpoint students, and seeing how they interacted with the kids and how they really seemed to kind of grow in their faith and their maturity through it all. And also, I guess the second thing for me was the worship services, because we got to go, we went to, it seemed like almost a church service every other day. And we were at different churches, and of course they were all speaking Spanish and singing songs in Spanish. And so it was kind of cool because I know like just enough Spanish to get the idea of like what the song is about. And so it was really cool to just like worship with them. And it's like, it kind of makes you think more about the meaning when you're not singing songs that you know. And so it was a really kind of powerful experience, I thought.
I love that.
Yeah. My high was probably with Will also. One, that we got to go on the trip together with the students, but two was we had prayed that we would be able to sponsor a child, and we didn't really know what that was going to look like, but we knew going in that we wanted to sponsor somebody while we were there. And one of the wonderful employees that they have has been an employee for about 18 years, I believe. And his name's Carlos. And he drives trucks and vans, and he'll pick you up at the airport. And he takes you all over. And he's just this great guy. Like,
we all love Carlos.
Everybody. I think everybody is friends with him. You're like, you meet him, and he's like, you can be my friend, Yeah. And he knows some English, and so, and I know some Spanish, and that was some of my favorite times was practicing my Spanish with him, because he would speak slow enough that I could respond, in Spanish, and he was practicing his English. Well, anyway, Carlos has 3 children, and Will and I were our family is able to sponsor one of his daughters.
Wow. And
it really came as a surprise. Like, we had just said, we will sponsor whoever we need to. Well, while we were up in Quiche, they came to us and they were like, oh, how would you like to sponsor Brianna? And we were like, sure. And they told us how old she was. And they said, actually, it's Carlos's daughter. And we were like, what? How did that, happen? Why is she not being sponsored? And they said, it just had to be the right person. So the awesome thing is that they allowed us to meet Brianna at one of the church services and tell her we were sponsoring her. And she just broke down crying. It was the sweetest thing. And so we got to meet her and give her gifts and just love on her, while we were there. And then another family sponsored their son while they were there also, which was really sweet.
So what does it mean to sponsor a child?
So sponsoring a child means that you're going to give a donation a month that will help with their school expenses, maybe some clothes expenses, health, like dental, doctor appointments and things like that. And then anything else left over, is something special, or it goes to the family.
Okay.
So
all of this is within the umbrella of Living Water Adopt a Child.
It is.
Correct.
The outreach trip is to go and to serve in the feeding centers and make home visits, but then there's another leg of it of sponsoring children so if you say someone couldn't go on an outreach trip, they could decide to sponsor a child through Living Water Adopt a Child.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
And Centerpoint and Kids Creek, we each sponsor students in that. And so any money that is tithed to us, like given on Sunday mornings, will go into that, and we're able to give it to the child we sponsor.
Yeah, like Sarah said, my high for sure was sponsoring Brianna and getting to meet her. And like she said, they did it a little different to where they actually announced it to the congregation. So it was a really emotional thing for their family and for us. And the interesting thing is when I went on my first trip 13 years ago, I actually spoke at that church. And then this trip, I actually spoke the message that night too. So it was really, it's just a kind of full circle thing where, had no idea 13 years ago that I would be back there, not only giving another message, but sponsoring one of the children in the congregation. So
that's amazing. Look at God go. All right, everybody shared one of their high moments. Now, what about a low moment?
So honestly, the low is probably the same for everybody.
That's what I was going to say also.
Because the
second to last
it was
day.
either the Saturday or Sunday before we left. We showed up at a church service that morning, and we were going to go to another one that evening. But one of the children in the congregation had gotten sick and was in the hospital. And so basically that whole service was nothing but praying for her. But then Steve McDaniel, who's kind of runs Living Water.
And the pastor.
Yeah, he had to basically leave and go be with her and the family at the hospital. And sadly, she ended up losing the battle and died the next day as we were coming home. So I think that kind of put a damper on, our last day there and whatnot. It kind of changed the plans a lot. But the awesome thing is you saw a congregation come together and pray. And then you saw this team come together and pray. And everybody praying for the same thing. And it was just very powerful.
And her mom is an employee of Living Water, Dr. Child also. And she works in the compound in Antigua. So, and she, it just was a lot.
Yeah, it was a tough situation. And I just remember like being in that service and just like feeling the emotion of like everybody. I mean, there were probably, what would you say, 50 plus, or so people, maybe more in the room. And everybody was just like, weeping over this girl, and like they all
and we had never, we had not met her.
We didn't know her, but I think it still hit all of us hard. And I remember getting together and like praying after that service, and just like, I don't know, just feeling for her.
And earlier, I heard someone say, I think it was you, Sarah. You talked about how the trip is life changing. And I'm sure that the life-changing impacts come from many different elements of the trip, but you have the high highs where you get to, like what Cam said, interacting with the small child and seeing their joy when they get to come and play and have a full belly. And then you've got the lows of losing someone so important to their community. How do things like that shape your life when the plane touches back down on the ground in the U.S.? I almost see that as kind of being a low, like you have to acclimate.
Well, I was not ready to come back home. I mean, I could have stayed and served and just loved on the kids and the families for a couple of weeks probably and been completely fine. But when you get home, it's hard to acclimate. I mean, you kind of hit the ground running because you go back to work and things like that, but in school. But it's really interesting, and I'll say this, I don't know if we'll even keep it, but we are so materialistic in the United States. Like, we love our nice things. We want a nice vehicle and a nice home, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what I really realized is that how little you actually need to be happy and what really fulfills you. And just seeing the moms, a lot of the moms are home by themselves with their children and with other family members, but a lot of the men, the fathers, husbands, even brothers, boys, they're off working already. And so those moms keep the home, and they have very little. The first home visit we went to was a shack with metal walls and a metal roof tied together with rope. And their kitchen had a dirt floor and had a stove and refrigerator, but it had electricity. But it was very, very bare, and there are flies everywhere. It's so, so different than our living circumstances in the United States. And it really makes you second guess what you spend your money on and use your time doing. That really had a huge impact on me, and I tried to remember that as the Christmas season came, and really just tried to make time and focus on family versus material things. But it's a hard battle when you live in it, in the United States, and it's
Culture
in front of you every day. Yeah. So,
Cam, you were nodding in agreement. Do you feel the same way?
It's really just like enlightenment to kind of like other people's situations. Like they basically just have not nothing, but they don't have a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And for like us, we're so used to just having like all these things, like a car, not having to walk to places. So it's a whole like other world than what we're used to.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just really just enlightenment from that.
Yeah, and to be, you go ahead, Sam.
Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna second that. I think that impacted all of us. Seeing the way people lived, and yet the joy that a lot of them had.
it's also amazing how much they worked. Like, they worked 7 days a week. I think they, for a lot of them that we saw, they would go to church, but a lot of people just worked constantly. It's a different culture in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so what I was going to say is it really makes you kind of question your priorities, because you saw, so like the church we went to on the way up to Quiche, if y'all remember,
Mm-hmm.
It was raining that night, and dirt road leading up to it. Most of them don't have vehicles, and they were still showing up. Even if they were 15, 20, 30 minutes late, they still showed up to worship and to learn about the Lord.
And it was a torrential downpour.
Yeah,
Right,
it was
right.
huge
With those
rain.
dirt roads.
Right. And so you think about something like that here, you wake up 10 minutes late, you're like, oh, I'm not going to make it to church
Yeah.
today. I'll just watch it
Watch it
online. But that's what I'm saying, though, is they really prioritize their relationship with the Lord. And it really does make you sit back and question sometimes when you're looking at yourself in the mirror, am I doing the same thing?
Man. So we've talked about highs and lows. Now, remind me again what Buffalo is.
It's just something random that stood out to you.
Okay. So who's got Buffalo to share with us?
Should I tell mine?
You go
Go
first
for
this
it.
time, Sam.
Okay. So mine's kind of a little bit of a story. And I'll let Cam fill in the details if I miss anything. So the first church we went to, it was up in the mountains when we were on our way to Quiche. And this is the one Will was talking about where it had rained really hard right before the service. And so after the service, their youth group and our youth group kind of ate a meal together, and without interpreters. So you had basically, all English speakers and all Spanish speakers trying to communicate. So that was interesting. But this one kid in our group, Lucas, he and this girl were talking, and she wanted to show him her motorcycle. And Spanish for motorcycle is moto. So she kept saying moto, moto. And so Lucas was just kind of going along with it. And he gets pulled out to go see her motorcycle. And we're about to load up into the vans and head to our next destination. And it's like dark, the sun is set and it's still drizzling a little bit. And she throws a poncho on him and is trying to get him to get on the back of the motorcycle. And he's like, has this kind of bewildered expression on his face. And so he gets on, and the next thing we know, she's just gone and just drove out into the night in the rain. And we're like, well, I hope she brings him back.
I mean, it was like raining there. It was the girl. Well, Lucas didn't know like she was gonna go like he thought she was just gonna go down the street or go down the driveway because there was a long driveway there, and she kind of pulled out like
past the driveway
onto the road,
and Lucas had no idea what she was saying. And
how do you say stop in Spanish?
Exactly.
Yeah, this kid knew basically no Spanish. So imagine.
On the motorcycle, it was just like, no. Like the whole way. And she didn't understand him, so.
But she brought him back.
Yep.
No one was harmed.
That's a good one. Who can top that?
Nobody.
No, nobody can top that. I don't think they've ever had that happen.
That was a really good one.
What are the things was it going on whenever y'all were there, or am I thinking about another trip? They almost look like carpets, like out at the little, I don't know if it must be down on the, whenever you get your like tourist day. I've seen pictures, and maybe I'm thinking of the previous Centerpoint trip where they got to go into the city, and then there were vendors, and it's like flowers laid out.
Market. Like the market?
Yeah, I mean,
You know
we
what
got to go to a market. Kind of like a
craft fair,
Yeah.
in a way, if you would think about that.
Okay.
But
They had
it's like an open
like
air
a bazaar.
market.
Yeah, they had a bunch of booths where people were selling their goods and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
No crazy stuff there.
And it was,
I mean,
Oh, there
they'll
was
try.
crazy stuff.
They'll try to get your money and tell you they
was
want
bargaining.
to. Yeah, that you can talk
Yeah.
them down. What's how much things cost, but they will try to get as much out of you as you can.
So, Cam, do you have a buffalo for us?
yeah, so this is kind of nasty. So when we were at Antigua, and this was kind of like the last kind of 2-3 days there, Lucas had
Another
Lucas.
Lucas story.
We're going to have to get Lucas on the podcast.
You're gonna have to get.
I know.
I tried to get him here, but so we were eating dinner, and he had like
Oh, I remember
failed
this.
a challenge
Yeah.
that we had, and we decided for his punishment he was to drink our concoction that we made, and we kind of just put a bunch of nasty like stuff we found at the dinner table that night, and he drank it. He said it was pretty nasty.
So, we're talking like salsa and.
Yeah.
It was like
Tomato
pasta
sauce.
it was like
sauce
spaghetti,
and lemonade
noodles.
and-
Yeah,
It
noodles.
was gross.
Wasn't
But-
there some like mayonnaise or mustard or something in there?
I don't
somewhere?
even want to go into it. It was a lot.
He drank it though.
And it clearly left its mark on you. One of your big memories.
It was funny because
Yeah.
like everyone was just watching him do it.
Lucas is a happy-go-lucky, just kind of personality, and he just wants to have
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, he's a
So-
fun kid.
Yeah, so he's got a big heart. So he's just friends with everybody.
What about you, Sarah?
My buffalo was riding in the back of the trucks. And so you're in the back of a pickup truck, and it has some like metal, I don't know,
The guardrails?
guardrail. Yeah, I guess
Okay.
so. Metal. Yeah, probably guardrails. But So every time we would go somewhere, except if it was a longer excursion, you got to ride in the back of the truck and you stand up. And so we would just ride through the little cities and up to some of the feeding centers on the back of the truck. And it was so much fun. It's just like freeing, and then you're not going fast, but it's just so much fun. And then we would all jump at when they would go over a speed bump, and it's just like being a kid again. So it was just super fun.
And those views from the mountain roads were beautiful too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I guess my random thing, and probably one of the things I enjoyed the most, though, was seeing the sunrise and the sunsets up in the mountain area. Mm-hmm. I mean, I could retire there, and like once I'm done working and kind of that responsibility is done, I could just be there every day, just looking at that view and enjoying it. So that's probably my random thing.
Yeah.
I want to go see a Guatemalan sunset.
I need to.
It's a beautiful country.
Uh-huh. A lot of us didn't want to leave at all because
we just weren't ready.
Well, Steve and Anna, the people that we stayed with, they like the first day we were there, they just kind of made it feel like home and feel like we were there to go to work and all this stuff, and so I didn't want to leave personally.
Well, Cam, so now that you say that, how do you feel like the trip changed your view of the world? Like, had you ever been out of the country before this trip?
No, this was my first time. And it was like a whole new experience. Like, I can't even describe it.
So you chose to go to a place where you don't speak the same language, do things outside of your comfort zone. So what would you say to another Centerpoint student, whether, it's one of your friends like Lucas or somebody who's never been, like, why should they go?
Well, it just changes like your perception of like what's kind of what we're doing here. Mm-hmm. Like that to more like appreciate things that we have and appreciate like what we can kind of do in like the place that we're in. Mm-hmm. And just knowing that is very kind of life-changing, and like to go on this trip and to help other people out and just really worship the Lord is really powerful. And I recommend like everyone to give it a shot.
Yeah. Will, what would you say?
Repeat the question.
Please repeat the question.
What would you say to the well, and actually y'all can speak to the parents. So Cam's spoken to the student who's hearing about, okay, there's an outreach trip to Guatemala for Centerpoint students, and it might be white noise. To the parents who have heard about it, and maybe their student has expressed a little bit of interest, but they're hesitant or worried about safety or their kid hopping on the back of a motorcycle.
Right? I know.
What would you say to those parents?
Well, first of all, both of the compounds that we stay in are guarded. They're walled, and then even at night, you are told to stay in your room because then they let out guard dogs for the whole night. So it's from that safety standpoint, you have really nothing to worry about. We are very protected while we are there. As far as just hesitation of sending them, period, all I can say is, put your faith in the Lord, because it will be a life-changing experience for them. Like Cam said, their perspective on some things will change. They will see a lot of the blessings that they do have that we probably all take for granted. But it just, the relationship you build there with the team that's there and your relationship with the Lord, it just grows so much in those 8 days that you're there. So that's that would be my advice to them. So.
What's one way that parents might be able to get to know the leaders who are going to be with their students? Because that was one of the questions that came up just in my own mind. Like, okay, I'm sending my student, I'm trusting the leadership, but maybe I don't know them. So how would they get to know the leaders? Are y'all having an informational meeting, or do they stop by on a small group night?
Yeah, so once the team is chosen, we have 2 to 3 pre-meetings that the parents are encouraged to come to as well.
Okay.
So the students and the parents will come, and they'll be able to, meet the leaders even closer.
Okay.
I know as of right now, I think the three of us, me, Sarah, and Sam, are all planning on going on this next trip.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if any other leaders are planning on going yet, but I know for sure that the three of us are planning on going.
And how big can the team be?
I mean,
You said 16 last time?
16 last time, that was kind of big.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we were to ask Todd, he would say 10 to 12.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that would be a great number for us to, 10 would be a great number for us to have.
And then for the cost of the trip, I know there's a set price, and students and leaders can fundraise themselves. But the church also has unique landing pages for each person who is going.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone wants to invest in a student in their spiritual growth journey by helping support them to go to Guatemala, that's also a possibility, right?
That's correct.
Okay, because you may have students who want to go but may not be in a place financially where they can spend, how much is it?
It's 12 to 1,500.
Okay, so they may not be ready to spend that, but knowing that they can raise funds on their own and the church can even support that, the church family can.
Yeah, so every team member is encouraged to write support letters to help build the team that's going with us. And it's not just to help raise money, but it's also to help raise prayer for us while we're there. And then that way, for you who's never been, that's a way you get to be a part of the team, is that you're praying for us. And then you know, a lot of times you'll get the same information as far as us sharing pictures and whatnot.
Right. I mean, how powerful would it be to know throughout the week, you're going to the feeding centers, I can be praying and celebrating with you when you get to meet Brianna, and then also praying with you, mourning with you whenever we hear about this news. I mean, I may not be there, but I would be just as involved.
Oh, right.
Prayerfully.
Right.
Okay. That's amazing.
I actually, it wasn't a flea market. It was more like just the market, right?
Yeah.
I got this kind of bracelet that has a cross on it. I've had it ever since Guatemala, and me and Lucas got like matching ones, and he's had it on ever since. So
Awesome.
this is just the
I know you guys found
I
a
love
good
it.
one.
lasting
Yeah.
impact on us.
And Will has an awesome shirt too.
Yeah, I should have worn it, though, right?
I know we all should have worn our Guatemala shirts.
I know.
All right, everybody's homework is to take a selfie in your Guatemalan attire
Okay.
sometime this week, and then we'll post it
Okay.
on our socials.
Sounds good.
Just wear them on Sunday, and we'll take a picture Sunday morning.
Yeah,
There, that's a plan.
Yeah.
we could do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those black ones you're talking about?
That's fine.
That or the one that we bought at market. If you bought one at market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
I did not buy any clothes while I was down there.
I'll let you borrow one.
I got a bracelet though. I think I still have it.
You didn't buy any shirts?
No.
Okay, this year you got to buy a shirt.
Mm-hmm. I know.
so.
I already have a list of stuff I want to get when I go back down there. So, yeah.
Do we have to take an extra suitcase?
Yes.
Oh.
To bring it back.
Yeah.
That's great.
I know.
Well, everybody, thanks for listening to the Cedar Creek Church podcast. This has been a fun conversation, and it truly is about life change. And I believe that if you take that next step and want to go on an outreach trip, whether it's with Centerpoint or on one of our adult outreach trips, it will change your life. We'll be back soon with another Cedar Creek Church podcast.